I used to babysit a lot back in high school to make extra money. Most of the jobs were easy. A few hours of Netflix while the kid sleeps, then I'd head home. But this one, I still think about it sometimes, and it still freaks me out. It was the fall of 2021. I got a message from a woman named Sharon through my mom's friend. She needed someone to watch her son, Ben, who was 8 years old. They had just moved to a quiet neighborhood in a place called Chestnut Ridge, maybe 20 minutes from where I lived. I agreed. The house was nice, not fancy, but big and clean. Sharon was in her early 40s, looked tired but friendly. She gave me a quick tour of the house, told me Ben's bedtime was 9 p.m., and that I could help myself to snacks. She was going to some late dinner thing and said she'd be back around midnight. Ben was a sweet kid. A little shy, but he warmed up after we watched a bit of a cartoon movie. He showed me his room, told me about his school, and at one point he asked me if the man was coming tonight. I laughed and said, "What man?" He got quiet for a second, then mumbled, "The man that watches from the backyard." I brushed it off. I've babysat enough to know kids say weird stuff, especially when it's dark and they want to sound spooky. By 8:30, I told Ben to brush his teeth and get ready for bed. I tucked him in, read him a quick story, and left his door slightly open like he asked. I went downstairs, turned on Netflix, and started scrolling through my phone. It was quiet for about half an hour. Then I heard something. It was a faint sound, like soft knocking. Not on the front door, but from the back, like someone tapping lightly on the glass. I paused the show and sat still. I waited. Nothing. I got up and went to the back door, which had a big sliding glass window looking out into the yard. It was pitch black outside. No porch light. I turned on my phone flashlight and pressed my face closer to the glass. Nothing but grass and the old swing set. I went back to the couch, slightly unsettled. Maybe the wind or a branch. But it was barely breezy that night. About 10 minutes later, I heard it again, this time louder. 3 distinct knocks on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. I jumped off the couch, heart racing. I ran to the back door and flipped on the outside light. There was no one there. I opened the sliding door just a crack and shouted, "Hello?" Nothing. I locked the door again. My hands were shaking. I didn't want to scare Ben, so I didn't go upstairs. But I did text Sharon. "Hey, just checking. Do you guys have motion sensors or cameras in the backyard?" She didn't respond. Then I heard something from upstairs. It sounded like Ben, talking. But not like talking to me, more like whispering. I crept upstairs and peeked into his room. The light was off, but I could see him sitting up in bed, facing the window. "Ben?" I whispered. He turned slowly and looked at me. "He's back," he said. "Who?" "The man. He's closer now." I felt a chill down my spine. I walked over and pulled the curtain open. Again, nothing. Just the yard and the swing set swaying a little. I tried to act calm. "It's just the wind, Ben. You're safe, okay?" He nodded, but didn't lie back down. I sat with him for a while until he finally laid back and closed his eyes. As I went back down the stairs, I heard my phone ding. It was Sharon. "Sorry, just saw this. No cameras in the back, just a sensor light, but it's broken our end. Everything okay?" I typed. "Thought I heard someone knocking outside. Pretty sure it's nothing, just a bit freaked out. Sorry." She replied, "Weird. Just keep doors locked. I'll be home in 45 minutes. I tried to relax, but my nerves were on edge. I turned off the TV and sat there in silence, just listening. Then, at exactly 11:38 p.m., the sensor light in the backyard turned on. I froze. That light was broken. I stood up slowly, heart pounding. I reached for my phone with one hand, and with the other, I peeked through the curtain again. And I saw him. A man, standing perfectly still near the swing set. He wasn't moving, just staring at the house. His hands were at his sides. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could tell he was wearing a hoodie. I stepped back, nearly tripping over the couch. I dialed 911, whispering to the dispatcher what was going on. The operator stayed on the line with me until the police showed up about 12 minutes later. By then, the man was gone. The cops searched the yard, the perimeter, even checked for footprints. Nothing. No sign anyone had been there. Sharon came home just as the officers were wrapping up. She was pale when I told her what happened. She said something strange had happened a few nights earlier, too. Her porch chair had been moved in the morning, and Ben had mentioned seeing someone in the yard. After that night, she installed cameras and replaced the motion sensor light. I never babysat for them again. And to this day, I don't know who that man was or what he wanted. But sometimes when I walk past playgrounds or backyards at night, I still think about those 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. I was 17 when I took a babysitting job for a couple who lived about 25 minutes outside of town in a secluded older farmhouse. They had 2 kids, both under 10, and the parents were heading out to attend a friend's birthday party. I arrived just before 6 p.m. The mom gave me a quick rundown. Dinner was in the fridge, the kids could watch TV till 8, and bedtime was 8:30 sharp. She left me the house number and said, "Oh, and don't worry if the hallway light upstairs flickers sometimes. It's old wiring." Then she and her husband left. The kids were sweet, easy to handle. We ate dinner, watched a movie, and I got them into bed without trouble. By 8:45, the house was silent, except for the occasional creak you'd expect from an old building. I settled into the living room couch with a book. About 15 minutes in, I heard footsteps upstairs. Not the small shuffling of kids sneaking out of bed. These were deliberate, heavy steps. I paused, listened. Nothing. I got up, crept halfway up the staircase, and called out, "You guys okay?" No response. I reached the top and peeked into both bedrooms. The kids were sound asleep. That's when I noticed the hallway light was on, the one the mom said might flicker. Only now, it wasn't flickering, it was swaying, like someone had bumped into it. But the air was still, no windows open. I felt a chill and told myself it was probably just my imagination. I turned off the light, went back downstairs, and tried to distract myself with my book. Not 5 minutes later, the hallway light came on again. This time I froze. I hadn't heard footsteps, but the light was definitely on, and I knew I'd turned it off. My heart started racing. I walked back up, trying to stay calm. The hallway felt colder than before. I looked into the kids' rooms again, still fast asleep. Then I turned to the light. It flickered once, then twice, and shut off on its own. That was enough. I decided to stay downstairs and keep all the lights on. Around 10:15 p.m., I was starting to feel silly. Maybe it was faulty wiring, maybe I was just jumpy. That's when the front door rattled. Not a knock, rattling like someone was trying to open it. I shot up and peeked through the peephole. No one. I waited. Nothing. Just the wind rustling in the trees. I sat back down, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. Then I saw it. Through the reflection on the blank TV screen, I could see the upstairs hallway light. It was on again. This time I didn't go up. I just sat there, staring at the stairs, every nerve in my body on edge. Then the light turned off, and I heard the creak of a floorboard just at the top of the stairs. I ran into the kitchen, grabbed the biggest knife I could find, and locked myself in the downstairs bathroom. I called the parents, whispering that I thought someone was in the house. They told me to call the police immediately, and they'd rush home. The dispatcher stayed on the phone with me. A deputy arrived within 10 minutes. He searched the house top to bottom. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. The kids never woke up. But here's the part that still makes my stomach turn. The deputy came down the stairs, frowning. He said, "The attic door was open. You go up there for anything tonight?" I said no. He nodded slowly and said, "Well, someone's been up there. There's a footprint in the dust, just one, near the hatch." The parents arrived shortly after. They were horrified. The police didn't find anyone and nothing was stolen. But they had a locksmith come first thing the next morning and new locks were installed all around. To this day, I don't know what happened in that house. I've never babysat again, and sometimes when I can't sleep, I still hear that hallway light click on in my head. I was 16, and it was one of my first babysitting jobs outside my neighborhood. A woman had posted on a local Facebook group looking for someone to watch her 5-year-old daughter for the night. She claimed her usual sitter canceled last minute and she needed someone urgently. The house was just 20 minutes away and she offered good money for a single night. When I arrived, the house was nice, clean, spacious, and modern. The mother, Ms. Everett, looked stressed but kind. She introduced me to her daughter, Lila, a quiet, polite kid. She had big eyes and clung to a worn stuffed rabbit. Before she left, Ms. Everett gave me the basic instructions. Dinner was already made. Lila usually went to bed by 8 p.m. She warned me Lila sometimes sleepwalked, but not to worry. It was rare and harmless. Then, as she was heading out the door, she paused. "One more thing," she added. "If Lila ever starts talking to the mirror in the upstairs hallway, just ignore it. She'll stop on her own." I smiled, thinking it was a joke. She didn't. She left before I could ask questions. The night started off fine. I reheated some mac and cheese and Lila ate quietly while watching cartoons. She barely spoke unless I asked her something, and even then it was just soft yes or no replies. Around 8 p.m. I helped her brush her teeth and tucked her into bed. She looked at me and whispered, "If the man talks to you, don't answer." I asked her, "What man?" She didn't respond, just rolled over and hugged her stuffed bunny. Chills ran down my spine, but I shook it off. Kids say weird things. By 9:30 p.m., I was downstairs on the couch scrolling my phone. The house was dead quiet. Then I heard it. Soft footsteps. I froze, listening. The sound was coming from upstairs. Slow, light, almost like someone walking barefoot on the carpet. I remembered what Ms. Everett said. Lila sometimes sleepwalked. I went upstairs slowly, calling her name. "Lila?" No answer. I turned the corner into the hallway and saw her, standing in front of the mirror. She was facing it, perfectly still, just staring into her own reflection. "Lila, sweetie, let's go back to bed." She didn't move. As I stepped closer, I noticed her lips were moving slightly, like she was whispering. "Lila?" I said louder. She snapped out of it, turned around, and looked confused. "I'm sleepy," she mumbled. I guided her back to her room and tucked her in again. Still, something felt off. The way she had stood there like she was hypnotized. An hour passed. I was trying to read to distract myself. Then, again, footsteps, but heavier. Not light, not a child's. I immediately looked at the baby monitor. Still showed Lila in bed. I grabbed the flashlight from my bag and went upstairs, slowly. When I got to the hallway, the light above the mirror was flickering. No one was there. But as I walked past the mirror, I heard breathing, right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Just me. But then I noticed it. There was a handprint on the mirror. Too high to be Lila's. Too large. It wasn't there earlier. I wiped it with my sleeve, trying to calm myself down. Maybe I was just scaring myself. Midnight. I was on edge, but trying to stay logical. Then the baby monitor crackled. I looked. Lila wasn't in her bed. I raced upstairs. She wasn't in her room. "Lila?" I called, panicking. Then I heard whispering, coming from the hallway. She was there again, facing the mirror. This time her hand was pressed flat against it, whispering fast, intense. I rushed over and grabbed her shoulders gently. "Lila, you're dreaming. Let's go back to bed." She turned to me, eyes wide. "He wants to come out." "What?" I whispered. She pointed at the mirror. "He says the glass is thinning." I backed away. "We're going to your room." As I turned, I swear I heard a voice from the mirror. Low, garbled, like underwater speech. I didn't look back. I carried her into her room and shut the door. She finally fell asleep again. I sat outside her room, watching the hallway. I didn't care how crazy I sounded. I wasn't taking chances. But nothing else happened. The house stayed quiet. At 6 a.m., Ms. Everett returned. She saw my face and asked if everything was okay. I told her, everything. She didn't react, just nodded slowly. "You did good. You didn't answer him." That was it. She paid me in cash and thanked me. As I was leaving, I glanced at the mirror one last time. There was a crack in the glass, a thin, vertical crack, right where Lila had pressed her hand.